This is another one where they were looking at Alzheimer's disease. And the reason I've got this one here is that I was looking at a type of SSRI, which is used for mood, which is called Escitalopram. There it is. It's this terrible word here. Escitalopram, I think. This medication is being delivered to the brain and it's being delivered bound to oxalate. So because it does actually get into the brain, I have to assume that this actually demonstrates that oxalate will pass through the blood-brain barrier. And so I don't want to say that this is a big source of oxalate. I don't think it is, like this particular medication. What I'm really saying here is that this shows that oxalate gets through into the brain because they've bound this therapeutic molecule to oxalate, and that's actually being delivered as SSRI for people who have mood disorder. That was an interesting little piece of research. I was looking also into just the qualities of the blood-brain barrier itself. Very interesting if people want to do a little bit of reading, but the blood-brain barrier is a slightly different kind of endothelium membrane because what you've got are cells that are much more tightly packed together. And I don't know how many people on the call here are aware of like leaky gut, which is again the idea that the cells kind of are cranked open a little bit, and so you're not getting the kind of barrier you expect. We really need to have some research which talks about whether or not oxalate alone is enough to crank open some of these barriers so that they're not working the way they should. Because if the blood-brain barrier gets leaky, what implications would that have? But this is talking about how things get through the blood-brain barrier and they have to be small enough. So one of the things that I want people to keep in mind is that oxalate's a pretty simple little molecule. There's not a lot to it. And that could actually be why it gets through. And notice here about substances that can get through the blood-brain barrier. You've got antidepressant medications. So again, that escitalopram and it being bound to oxalate, it could be that there's some things here that might indicate that oxalate is getting through and maybe doing that regularly, not just when it's bound to certain medications.